It's just unbelievable. Like, how could someone do that, like, to these innocent kids?
A frightening situation in the south suburbs. Parents say their kids out for trick-or-treats were given what appears to be cannabis-infused gummy bears. Elizabeth Matthews has an arrest made in South Chicago Heights.
Police have recovered at least 8 suspicious bags of candy. The suspect told police that he passed out about 20 of them. They would certainly stand out in a trick-or-treat bag. Unlabeled, nondescript small baggies with all yellow gummy bears inside. Police say possibly contaminated with cannabis. This dad, who didn't want to be identified, says it happened to them.
I was walking down the street and someone commented that someone was handing out black packets of marijuana gummies. I checked my 4-year-old daughter's bag, and yes, I found 3 packets of gummies that smelled like marijuana.
Police say this man, 25-year-old Jarod Feilen, is now facing 5 misdemeanor charges of child endangerment. Police accuse him of passing out these baggies that responding officers report smelled like marijuana.
He said that he ran out of candy, so he had some little baggies, and he put some of his gummies in there and started distributing them.
On Halloween night, South Chicago Heights Police Chief Bill Joyce says an alert parent spotted the baggies in their kid's candy stash after trick-or-treating in the 200 block of Cherry Lane. The alert children knew which house the bags came from, and within an hour of that trick-or-treat stop, Feilen was in custody.
One of the neighbors said that he had a bowl full of them. And during the interview, he said that he probably gave about 20 of them out.
He has since bonded out, but no one answered the door at his home. Now police are warning parents to double-check their kids' candy.
I checked everything. Anything that seemed open, I threw it away.
We as parents have to be responsible to check our candy or the stuff that's being distributed to our kids.
The chief says they don't have any reports of anyone consuming that suspicious candy. He adds that a drug-sniffing dog confirmed that the bags were suspicious, but they're still waiting on official crime lab results. In South Chicago Heights, Elizabeth Matthews, Fox 32, Chicago.
Okay, so y'all just heard that story right there, and let me just say that kudos to those parents for being on their P's and Q's and checking their children's candy before any of those children consume them, considering how many of these bags this individual passed out to kids. They said this guy handed out a total of about 20 of those bags to these kids. And fortunately, there have been no reports that any of these kids consumed any of them, because they just said that the bags smelled kind of funny. It didn't smell like actual candy, and they were in bags that were clear with no label on it. And let me see if I can find a picture of what the bag looked like. Okay, there it is right there. It might look kind of blurry on your end, but this is what it looks like. So this is the bag. It's clear. It has a silver back right here, but if you turned it over, it's black on the outside of the back of the bag. And this is what it looked like. It looked like they're gummies, and they're like a light orange color. So at the eye of a child, they're going to assume, of course, that that's candy. They look like gummy bears, but it basically was, in so many words, an edible. That's basically what it was. It was a gummy flavored edible, when in hindsight of what it was. This is why you have to be very careful about the candy that your kids get when you're going trick-or-treating. I know this is a post-Halloween video because the video came out literally the day after Halloween. So that's why if I had, this was a story, of course, that I could have got up sooner, I definitely would have. But people are crazy out here. They will put anything into these kids' candy if they feel that they can. I think I did a video before, I think last year, where someone had put, I forgot what they put into the candy, but it wasn't marijuana, but it was something. I can't remember if it was a drug or a razor blade. That's another thing. That was a thing that they used to do back in the day. I don't know if they still do it now, was slipping razor blades into kids' candy, especially like the candy bars. Like they would take it and they would slip it in there. I don't know how they did it, but when the kid would bite into it, it would cut the inside of their mouth. Like it's just the wildest thing. But what gets me about this whole story, and let me pull his picture back up, is two major things. One, this dude, when he ran out of candy, instead of putting a sign on his door saying no more candy, which would have been the more common logical sense thing to do, he decides, you know what? I have these gummies, these edible gummies that I can pass out to these kids and no one will really know the difference. Well, the joke is on him because they all figured it out. And luckily these parents were on their P's and Q's to do so. And also luckily they had a canine that was able to sniff out, as they're trained to do, that something was wrong with this so-called candy. The other thing that got me was the fact that he bonded out. Well, how high was his bond? I don't remember if they said it or not in the video itself, if they explain how much his bond was. But this tells me, this is also going to a narrative that I've also peddled on my channel before. There are people out there that do not deserve a bond, and this is one of them. The fact that this guy was able to bond out lets me know that he did not get a very high bond. It was a pretty low one if he was able to bond out. And the fact that he's just gone back home, because they said they went to his home to, talk to him. Of course, he's not going to answer the door, because he's pretty much been outed as a person who's basically been distributing a drug to minors, which I'm sure is a felony. So why he's just free at home, that doesn't sit right with me, considering kids did go to his home for candy and he gave them drugs, because that's basically what it is at the end of the day. Of course, if they were adults, then it is what it is. But he gave this out to children. Now imagine if these kids got so enticed and so excited by this candy that they opened it right then on the spot, or walked away and opened it while they were still trick-or-treating and didn't wait to say get home. Thankfully, these parents are basically probably telling them, listen, whatever candy you get, do not open any of it until you are done trick-or-treating for the night. And we're going to go in through and inspect all of it. But the fact that this man was able to distribute 20 of those is insane. It makes you wonder, how much more does he have? Because I highly doubt he only had 20. He had way more than that. Something that he should have been giving out to people who were adults who were most likely going to pay for those. He gave those out to minors for free. So in a way, if he was selling those, he cut into his own profits, unless he was so certain he was going to make more to make up for the 20 that he gave away for free. But they need to keep an eye on him. The fact that he's back home and he's not in a cell somewhere, that just doesn't sit right with me at all. And then, like I said, kids came up to his door, which means he lives in an area that's surrounded around minors. And you basically have a drug dealer on your block, on your street. So to the parents out there, they need to be very mindful of this dude while he is quote unquote out and about or out and free, considering what he distributed out to their children.